You're listening to Hello Unknown, a podcast exploring the hidden parts of the human experience. I'm Jonathan Wright. Today, it's coffee. There's a legend from the 9th century in Ethiopia. A goat herder named Kaldi, he notices something odd about his goats. After they nibble these red berries from a bush, his herd becomes annoyingly energetic. So Kaldi goes to the bush and plucks a few berries, and he tries it himself. He feels awake and alert and happy. So, very excited now, he brings them to a scholar at a nearby mosque. After hearing the story, the scholar's upset, actually. We don't know why, but he takes the berries and he throws them in the fire. And soon, a smell wafts up. Now, the scholar is curious. The beans are pulled out. He grinds them up, puts the grinds into a vessel, pours in hot water, and he makes the very first cup of, in my view, the very best drink. The way coffee, or rather the caffeine in coffee, works in the brain is by binding to adenosine receptors. These receptors are little keyholes for the protein. When adenosine slots in, we feel tired. Our brain activity slows down. Our body tells us it's time for bed. The miracle of caffeine is that it also fits into these receptors, blocking the effects of adenosine. So instead of being sleepy, we feel alert. Our nervous system is stimulated, and all the happy chemicals, noradrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, they flood the brain, as well as some less happy ones, like cortisol, which can make us feel alert and also anxious. Coffee dependence, which I know very well, comes when the brain notices that the adenosine isn't binding properly. In response, it raises up more receptors, more keyholes. This, in turn, in order to get the same alert effect, requires more and more coffee. After a while, when the caffeine wears off, the proteins pour back in, filling our receptors, and we crash. We're left with a chemical soup of adenosine and cortisol, exhaustion, maybe a little anxiety, and we, or I should say I, begin to dream about my next cup of coffee. For most of my life, I've had coffee every morning. When I was younger, it was a big yellow mug with half a pack of chocolate powder. Later, it was, more hipster, the single origin pour over, or the AeroPress, beans ground by hand crank burr grinder. I'm serious about this stuff. I love the taste. And, oh man, I love the feeling. Chances are you resonate. You've experienced caffeine in one form or another. But what you may not resonate with is this other thing I did every morning. A thing I did while drinking my cup of coffee. It's called devotionals, or devos. It's morning prayer, reading the Bible, talking to God. I loved it. I can't overstate this. Even among Christians, among my friends, I was an outlier in my devotion to devos. I did it basically every morning. I did it at my bachelor party. Oh my God. I believed it. Of course, I believed in what I was doing, but the why is perhaps less straightforward. The reason why I did this every morning, almost without fail. Honestly, I did it. I prayed because I felt it. I felt something. Direction, momentum. To be most accurate, I did it because it made me feel high. Coffee soon spreads, from the mosque in Ethiopia to the Sufis in Yemen. Sufis are mystics. The thing about mystics is that they're generally more open to transcendental, mind-altering experiences. We're talking about coffee here, not ayahuasca, but still, where the Ethiopian monks were reluctant, maybe afraid, these mystics used coffee deliberately during their nighttime prayers. They'd intone the name of God, chanting over and over, the spark of coffee in their blood, the mild, holy intoxication while they communed with the divine. From Yemen, coffee spreads across the Arab world. Turkey, Egypt, Syria, Persia. Coffee houses pop up. Chess and backgammon and music and ideas, minds buzzing and hands shaking. They become very popular for a certain type of elite male, merchants and scientists and intellectuals, and fairly quickly, these coffee houses become new centers of politics and art and science, which leads us to the first major backlash against coffee. In the early 1500s, coffee was banned in Mecca and Cairo. Coffee houses were closed. Warehouses containing stores of coffee were raided. The backlash was religious. The clerics clearly were afraid of something. The histories I read focus on the diminishing power of the clergy, this cultural shift toward coffee houses and away from mosques. I'm sure that's part of it, but they had religious reasons also. Coffee was often drunk from a communal bowl, like alcohol, and alcohol was definitely forbidden, so the optics weren't great. But most important, I think, was something more vague, and actually a lot more complicated. It was the feeling. The high, in their view, was evil. Or, to be more specific, the problem was the source. Happiness should come from God. Those mornings, those prayer mornings, that feeling I had, God might have played a part in it. We'll come to that. But, of course, there was also that big yellow mug of coffee. Sometimes when I drink coffee, I feel literally high, like knowledge and truth is at my fingertips. Any trace of sadness or depression is gone. It takes things I actively don't want to do, schoolwork, writing a legal memo, whatever, and it makes me not only want to do it, but really enjoy it, look forward to it even. That extended to prayer. I don't know what it was, what it is exactly, but whatever you think about God, that high, coffee and Bible reaching my mind toward the things I wanted or wanted for my friends, or family, or for the world, that was real. It felt genuinely something like a dialogue, like there were two parts of me in conversation with each other. Sometimes, on rare occasions, when I prayed for something I wanted, something deep and core, I'd feel a sense of approval. God's yes, delivered in my brain by chemical affirmation, assisted by the blocking of adenosine receptors by little molecules of caffeine. This was the good high, when I would feel that intensity, that affirmation. But there were bad highs too, times when I'd feel nothing at all, or worse. Those days I'd flounder, grasping at what I wanted, sometimes begging for it. This would happen typically when I had a certain outcome in mind. I'd get hopped up, caffeine flowing through my veins, and demand something, a certain response, an answer from God. And I wasn't open to anything else. On those days, whatever dialogue I'd previously experienced, it became a monologue, and any pleasant feelings I'd had tipped over to anxiety and annoyance and frustration. Not long after the bans, the Turkish Sultan Suleiman I directs his Grand Mufti to issue a fatwa, a legal ruling on a point of Islamic law. It was good news for the coffee addicts. The why behind the ruling is unclear. Coffee isn't mentioned in the Quran, so there's room to move. There was also, apparently, a fair amount of unrest among the citizenry. Frustration, irritability, probably headaches. Anyway, for whatever reason, by this fatwa, the Sultan overturns the bans. And from there, the drink spreads. In the 17th century, coffee pours into Europe. Coffee shops spring up, called penny universities. It's remarkably similar, actually, to the Islamic world. You could buy a coffee for a penny and hear speakers present on intellectual matters or engage in debate. It's science and politics and religion. By the mid-1600s, there were more than 300 coffee shops in London alone. coffee becomes a huge business. And out of these coffee houses, other businesses multiply, like Lloyd's of London, an insurance company that grew out of Edward Lloyd's coffee house and still exists to this day. In the background, of course, is the clergy. Catholic this time, but it's the same objections, the same motivations, more or less. Coffee is, quote, the bitter invention of Satan. Except now they throw in some casual racism too, some calling it, maliciously, the wine of Araby. Against this backdrop, the dispute between the clergy on the one hand and the wealthy merchants and coffee shop owners and coffee addicts on the other, it makes its way to the top, to the Pope, Clement VIII. The Pope agrees to give a ruling. But first, he decides to have a taste test. I don't know where it happened, the papal taste test, perhaps the single most important taste test in the history of beverages, but I imagine it in his office, Pope draped in papal robes. They make him a little cup, and he takes a sip, and he loves it. We'll be back after a quick break. As a teenager at camp, I first had that idea to mix hot chocolate powder into our terrible summer camp coffee. I thought I was a genius. I genuinely believed I'd invented something amazing. So I went around telling people about this new drink, including my friend Jared, who worked at Starbucks in the off-season. He looked at me, confused. "You mean," he said, "like a mocha?" Yes, Jared. And like the Keats Camp Mocha, with Hello Unknown, I may not have reinvented the podcast, but if you're enjoying my caffeinated storytelling, I'd love you to spread the word. Please subscribe. Text your friends, the super spreaders, the literary agents in your Rolodex. I'd love to do this more. And you can help. Thanks. Back to the show. God doesn't ban coffee. People ban coffee. So here's a question for the Italian priests and the 16th century imams, and for me. What is your God? One belief, the classic definition, is to think of the physical world. Messy biology, blood and guts and brain chemistry, thermodynamics, the laws of physics. Think of that, and then something, some being that exists parallel to all of it, who touches the material world, but can be separate from it in a spiritual realm. That's one option. Another is a God, really all things spiritual, within the physical world. If you believe in a God, or love someone who does, or know someone who does, or live in a country governed by people who do, who are slowly or not so slowly changing laws based on their theories about that God, then this question matters, because the God I believe in affects how I make my moral decisions. If, for example, a hypothetical God exists within the physical world, then by definition, God works within the rules of that world. So God, and morality, is subject to those rules, not exempt from them. If that's true, then I can't just pronounce on the inherent goodness or badness of anything without understanding that thing. You know, behavior, sexuality, drinking coffee, who's in and who's out, whether anyone should ever be in or out. All of it requires knowledge, rooted in science and psychology and experience. But, if I believe that God lives in that secondary universe, the spiritual one, outside the physical world, then I am set free from all that. The only check on my interpretation of a God, on my moral code, is a holy book, which, I have to interpret. So I get permission to believe in whatever God shows up in my brain. And the result is that coffee, anything really, can be good or evil without me needing to know why. God told me so. I'm going to tell you a story, something that happened to me. I'm 19, I'm on a couch in my parents' living room. I have a blue ink pen, a yellow legal notepad, and a cup of coffee. And what I'm doing is I'm asking questions and I'm writing God's answers on the notepad. For context, I'd heard a pastor on a podcast. This is like 2005, by the way. I was an early adopter. Anyway, this pastor was talking about listening to God, and he shared a method. The idea was that during morning devos, you get a notepad and a pen, find a quiet place, ask God questions, and sort of just let your mind go. Automatically write the answers. To start, I ask, am I allowed to be excited about this? I ask this because I am excited. Too excited, maybe. It feels dangerous. I'm aware I could just put words into God's mouth. His answer is calming. Yes, you are. This is my gift. The conversation, especially at the beginning, is intimate. I ask about a girl I have a crush on. What should I do? And he's like, take it slow and listen to me. Which was wise. And, spoiler, I didn't. I ask him what it means to get to know him. And he says, start by getting to know my children. I am in the weak, the poor, the downtrodden. It's boring, standard Bible stuff, but also, good. I still remember the feeling, half my life ago, a calm intensity, almost paradoxical, patient responses, boring and wise mostly, which I'm content with, at least at first, until the intensity, the adrenaline, starts to wear off, and it all shifts. Are you going to tell me something new? I ask him. No, I told you, you're not ready yet. There's back and forth, and then later, again, I say, is there anything specific you want to tell me? And God's answer, very unspecific, and frankly off topic, is, I am speaking to you as a friend. Keep me in your sights. It's around this time that everything starts to tilt. Are you being intentionally cryptic, I say, or is this just my words on the page? To be a friend, you have to love. Trust in me, and you will be able to do this. Increasingly annoyed, I write, these things don't sound like you, are they? Yes. That's yes with an exclamation mark. Stop doubting. It's really hard, I say. I feel like I'm crazy or making up things to suit my subconscious whims, to which God responds with sarcasm. Uh-oh, you found me. I'm a product of you. Come on, John. The Lord works in mysterious ways. You're smarter than that. This, the whole thing, was odd from the beginning. It's much odder now. So I'm bored. I've just been insulted by God. And then, quite suddenly, that tilt, the downward slope, becomes a cliff. There's some back and forth. And then God, the God on the page, comes right out and says the thing I'm afraid of. He tells me, I'm a product of your brain. What? I write that, question mark, exclamation mark. I'm a product of your brain. I place myself in your head and I'm using it. I'm using things you know and understand. Have faith. I start to panic. I say, I can't have faith when you're a product of my brain. And his response, my response to myself, weirdly profound, if I may say so, about a product of my own subconscious, is this. What else do I have to use? In this, it's just you and me. The Pope, Clement VIII, gave his blessing to what would, fairly quickly, become a world-spanning industry. After crude oil, coffee is number 2. Now, globally, it's the second most widely traded commodity. In 2024, worldwide coffee trade amounted to $465 billion. An estimated 125 million people make their living from growing, trading, or pouring coffee. That's roughly 1.5% of the world's population dependent on coffee for their livelihood. And that's because of us. I mean, worldwide, it's just around 1 billion people who drink coffee regularly, 12.6% of the human population. But in the West, we're obsessed. 75% of Americans had a coffee in the past week. 71% of their northern cousins, that's me, the Canadian. 71% of us drink coffee daily. It's 63% of the English, 68% among the French, 75% of Australians. All of us flipping switches in our brains, bathing our receptors with noradrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol, praying and playing chess and backgammon, and changing, manipulating, if only a little, and only for a brief period of time, our experience of reality. Including, of course, our experience of a thing that may or may not exist, that some of us call God. So, I'll leave you with an observation, an insight I received on a couch in my parents' living room 20 years ago. My God is a product of my brain. My experience of God, and also everything else for that matter, begins and ends in that place, inside my skull, in pink fleshy folds of neurons, blood vessels, and gray matter, shaped by thermodynamics, the laws of physics, past trauma and joy, and also hamburgers and beer, post-workout vegan protein smoothies, and big yellow mugs of coffee in the morning. Can you help me press?
You're pushing the air to push the coffee.
It's like a vacuum, I guess. Okay, that's it. Are you gonna try a spoonful?
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Okay.
Taste test. You don't like it?
Gross.
Hello Unknown is me, Jonathan Wright. Music is by Taylor Swindells of Neighborhood Libraries. If you like ambient, please check out Neighborhood Libraries. It's just so nice. Anyway, thanks to Emily Rogers, Matt Rogers, Matthew Lee, Jared Ing, Drew Gilmore, Rebecca Wright, and Ian Wright. If you want to get in touch, you can email me at hellounknownpod@gmail.com. If you like this podcast, please, please, please rate and review us. 5 stars, complimentary comments, etc. And if you haven't already, check out season 1. Thanks, everyone.